All right, everyone. Welcome back to Stars Like Us. I am your host, Aliza Kelly, and I am here with my dear friend, fellow Leo, Leo Sun, Gemini Moon, Gemini Rising. So we know that Kelsey Darragh is all about that life. And what life? We're going to find out. Kelsey is a comedian, writer, and filmmaker, best known for her works on the internet during her time at BuzzFeed, where she made over 500 videos about women, comedy, and taboo subjects like mental health and sexual wellness. Her first book was released this year titled Don't Fucking Panic, the shit they don't tell you in therapy about anxiety disorder, panic attacks, and depression. She is currently working on a mental health documentary following the story of Soraya Reese, and her second book is centered around chronic pain and illness. You can see her on Dating No Filter on E, streaming on Hulu, or her 2 weekly podcasts, Confidently Insecure, which is my favorite since I was on it, and Guilty Pleasures.
That
was
so
nice to talk to you again.
I'm like, hearing you say that, I'm like, I just want to carry you around and like play that all day. That was such a nice intro. Thank you.
Thankfully, this is a podcast and you can do that. You could
Yes, you're
actually
right.
make that happen.
Make it my ringtone.
Okay, so quickly before we get into anything, is this like an S&M wall that you have behind you of like leather straps and whips and stuff?
So I realized like I've been asked like what is going on behind me so many times, and I just moved into this new house, so I'm still redecorating, but those are my microphone stands hanging on my door.
Okay, sure.
And then sure. And then
Okay.
behind me is like a shrined wall to myself, which I feel like is very important in a woman's life, like a businesswoman entrepreneur. It's basically like all of my accolades and accomplishments that I get to look at every day and like hype myself up. And then, I'm a book whore. As you know, I have all of your books, and this was before I even met you. And so people get very upset when they see my bookshelf because I put my books backwards. So I like face the pages out to me.
Oh, that's really disturbing, Kelsey.
Fine. But like,
wait, why is that? Why is that? That really is quite upsetting.
Like I said, book whore since I was a kid, have loved books. I treat every single book as like a piece of magic, like a piece of like a chapter in my life. And I know where they are and I know how to find them. And so I'm also like very picky about book covers. And so some of them are not very cute spines. And so I flip them around and then like they speak to me when I need to get them.
Wow. I mean, I feel like I have more questions just based on that anecdote alone. When did you start doing that?
As long as I can remember, I would always take like sleeves off of books and then face the pages towards me. I don't know why. I think it's beautiful.
You worried about like people seeing the books that you were reading?
No. Oh God, no. I kind of want people to know what book. I think it says a lot about a person, right? But
but it just nobody can.
I know, but it's also my office, so there's not like a ton of people in here.
It's really wild. It is really wild.
People hate it.
Between that and then the S&M wall, like, and then the Space Jam outfit, of course. Like
the energy in here is chaotic, just like me. I am wearing a Space Jam jersey to go film a podcast about the new Space Jam, which
is also, of course, another sure.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Kelsey, I so enjoyed talking to you on your podcast. I'm so grateful that you are back on Stars Like Us. And now I get to ask you all the questions.
So crazy. Always hard.
Yes. And these are going to be the hardest questions you've ever answered in your whole life, I'm sure.
No, I mean, like you get it. You're a podcast host. So like when you go on other people's podcasts, it's always so hard not to flip it and like ask you a bunch of questions. So I'm going to really be mindful of like listening to your questions and answering them.
Yes, it is so, we'll talk about that another time. Let's get started in talking about how you became who you are today. What is your origin story?
I really identify with my signs. Like I'm learning more about moon and rising, but I always was really strongly connected to my Leo energy. And my mom is a Leo, and she is the most incredible, badass, hardworking, like come from nothing, built an empire person. And that's what I was raised with. Like I saw my mom at work and my dad at home coaching and like running us around. And he was like a stay-at-home dad. He's a little older. He retired early. And so when I would go over to my friends' houses, I would be like, why is your mom home? Like, why is she here? I thought women are supposed to like be entrepreneurs and CEOs. So I feel really lucky and of course traumatized and like burdened by being raised by like such a powerful woman. And so to me, I always knew I was going to work for myself. I always knew I was going to be an independent creator. And I love the arts. I was always in like musical theater. I was like that kid in the plays and singing and dancing. And I'm a
Okay.
Leo, so I love attention, right?
What was your favorite role that you had the opportunity to play?
It's so cliche, but I got the lead in the senior spring musical, which is a very big deal at our school. And I got to play Millie Dilmount in Thoroughly Modern Millie, which was like a very big deal
Wow.
for me.
Mazel
Yes.
tov.
Thank you. Is my shining moment, maybe the thing
Yeah.
I'm most proud of. But yeah, I was like a whore for attention. And I always thought that was a bad thing. I was always told like wanting attention, you're an attention whore. Like, oh, why do you always need to be the center of attention? And it wasn't until in my 20s and I had a really good therapist point out like, why wouldn't you want attention? Attention's amazing. Like you get to speak to people, you get to soak up information, you get to uh let go of control by being, the most present and mindful version of yourself in that moment. So it doesn't surprise me that this is the business I'm in. It doesn't surprise me that I have like 6 different hyphenates and titles of a person, which is something like I used to be ashamed of, but now I'm like, no, it depends on who I'm talking to that day
Right.
that
And
I can
also it
like,
depends. It's your Gemini rising and moon. So it's like
is
whatever.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I, again, like I'm learning more about Gemini rising and moon, but everything I've heard so far, I'm like, oh yeah, it me.
So how did BuzzFeed come to be? How did that become part of your story?
Yeah, it's definitely the thing that people know me the most from. It was definitely the biggest like um jump in my journey, I guess you could say, like my launch point. But I had actually started making YouTube videos back in 2010, which is like when it came out. OG. Yeah.
Whoa.
And I had a video go viral and it was called Shit Girlfriends Say. And that garnered a lot of attention because it was like, oh, what's this streaming platform? I can watch comedy, I can make skits. And I realized I can work for myself. You mean I don't need to go through an agent and a manager and auditions and like the traditional bullshit of Hollywood? So I started just doing that more and more. And I built up this like channel. And back then, 100,000 followers was a really big deal. And so I made connections through there and was doing stand up and improv and comedy. And I went through a horrible breakup, like the worst breakup of my life that like put me in rehab afterwards. I mean, I was at my lowest, completely depressed, like suicidal ideology, I write about in my book that whole period of my life. And then something saved me and I just started applying for this job. I had heard about BuzzFeed and I just started applying. And I was emailing this one guy over and over again. Like anytime I put out a new video or like, here you go, like, don't forget about me. And he was like, please stop emailing me. I don't control hiring. I'm not the right person. And I just kept emailing until I got an interview and I went in and finally, this was after like 6 months of just annoying this guy. And I was actually interviewed by Ned Fulmer, who, if anyone knows the BuzzFeed crew, he's part of the Try Guys. And they hired me. And on the first day of work, I went up to that guy and I was like, hi. And he was like, oh my God, you fucking made it. And I became obsessed with the job. I would get there at 7 a.m. I wouldn't leave till like 11 o'clock at night. I stayed there so long that that the custodians and the janitors actually told on me to HR that I would like stay there overnight and then like they would tell on me. So HR was like, you have to go home. And I'm like, I've never had access to this equipment and this audience. And like, I just love creating. And there was definitely like,
And did they give you like free reign? I mean, did you
oh
have the
yeah. Yeah, it's like showrunner school, college. Like you are the producer, writer, actor, publisher, marketing. Like you get to be you. And that's what I really love about BuzzFeed is that they hire people because of like who they are and only that person can work there because they are so special and have a point of view and they foster that culture, which was really helpful. And within like 8 months of working there, I got promoted to being a development partner, which was like 6 of us that they decided talent wise they were going to kind of platform and try and become like our sort of managers and get us deals and da 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 da. So at that point, that's when like the growth really happened, and I got to make a show on Comcast. I got to make a pilot for Oxygen Network. Like, just doors started opening. I started my own podcast there. I was running the Facebook vertical. Like, I just had so much to do, and I freaking loved every second of it, and the environment was just amazing. And views and numbers are great, right? Like, I was averaging 14 million views per video when I was
That's
at my like
insane.
peak. Yeah, it was like the Facebook days. And I realized like all of that is amazing and great, but like the community and the impact that I was able to make was what gave me like real purpose in life. Like, you can see the influencers that go crazy with numbers and it becomes like their whole thing. But for me, there was a shift around like 2016, 2017 when I decided to start making videos about mental health and personal wellness, that I really feel like I built like my brand there and like my flagpole in the moon. Like, this is who I am and this is what I represent here.
So going back to this breakup that you had when you've already started to define yourself on the internet and you have followers and you're in, you're visible, right? You're someone who
Yeah.
people know. And as a Leo, as a
Mhm.
performing Leo,
Yes.
I think that on a surface level, someone could think, why the sadness? Like, why the long face? Like you
Absolutely.
have it all. Um,
Yes.
can you share with us the experience of having reached milestones and having achieved already accolades, but then also going through
Yeah.
depression and like deep
Yeah.
depression at that same
Yeah.
time? Was the joy relegated to, were you aware of the joy? Was it
Mm.
only relegated to certain aspects of your life and then the
Mhm.
other ones were like it
Mm.
doesn't
Mhm.
matter? Or
Mhm.
how did all of that coexist within you?
Totally. That's such a great question, because it was like a self gaslighting that I would see comments that are like, there's no way this girl really has anxiety, or there's no way this girl really has depression because she's so happy, she's so bubbly, she's so successful. She has like, at the time I was like dating and da 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 da. And that really made me question my own validity of like my mental health disorder. I was diagnosed with anxiety and panic attacks when I was 17, and I'd been on medication since then. And so for me, it was very private. I did not tell people I was on medication. I did not explain my mental health journey to people at all. And so almost keeping it private was the thing that made it fester and worse, because
Yes.
I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. I wasn't like sharing that information. And it wasn't until we did a mental health week at BuzzFeed where we made every video that was on the platform for a week was all related with mental health. And I decided to make a video that told my story through the journey of being diagnosed, the depression, the suicidal ideologies, and I did it in a form where I took the pills I had been prescribed and I did like a stop motion animation storytelling. And that was my like coming out story to the world with mental health. And the day it was posted was like simultaneously the scariest and most incredible moment of my life, because I started to get an influx of DMs and comments and messages. Like, people got tattoos of the words I had written on themselves. And I started to see this community forming of like, oh, whoa, holy shit, this is the right way to do this. Keeping it in and letting it fester, even though I was in therapy and yada, yada, yada. I did not realize like what I actually needed as a Leo performer was to be very vulnerable and raw and honest, because us Leos, we like to be like, I'm the best and here I am, like the
Right. Like, no,
leader.
yeah, like no,
No
perfect.
problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just everything is
Yes.
like ready to perform, ready to
Yes.
go. The
Yes.
show must go on.
100%. And like what I learned with Gemini is that I am a soaker of information, and that I love to kind of like soak that in and then regurgitate that back into the world. And it makes 100% sense for what I do is like I would learn and try things and test things and make videos about certain treatments or whatever, and then put that out in the world, even if it wasn't something that worked for me or that was like deemed wrong. Like my purpose became, I'm going to fucking change this narrative about what mental health looks like to people, not just in society, but like who's allowed, I'm making air quotes, who's allowed to be in the mental health space. And I think, our generation is credited for breaking that stigma.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I say this thing called tank. There are no
I say it all the
coincidences.
time now.
Yay! So it's very tank because obviously as a astrologer, a lot of the work that I do is talking about mental health, talking
Mm,
about the internal
mm,
versus the external and what's going on behind the scenes.
mhm,
And I still, when somebody, if I'm being interviewed, for instance, by somebody who is, I could tell they're skeptical of the work that I do, and they ask,
mm.
oh, well, it sounds a lot like therapy. Still today, doing this for a very long time at this point, I get nervous because anyone who is not a licensed mental health professional,
Right.
people are wary and skeptical of. And so I
Sure.
immediately am like, it's not therapy, it's therapeutic, it's not therapy.
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
even me having to be so defensive
Right.
is not, I think
Awful.
that I think it's a little problematic because
Yeah.
there are so many ways to help and to support mental health and mental
Yes.
wellness and emotional and
Yes.
spiritual wellness
Yes.
that aren't just the traditional institutionalized version.
Yes.
However, I also have been actively in traditional therapy
Yeah.
for 15 years. So like
Totally.
fine,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that the work that I do is invalid. It doesn't invalidate the
100%.
experiences that I have with my clients, that I have in this astrological practice.
Yeah.
But I think, and I was struck by the title of your book, the subtitle, I was struck by the stuff
Yeah.
the therapists don't tell you
Right.
because, it's very,
You.
yeah, I mean, yes, truly, but it's also, I mean, it's very, what's the word that I'm trying to find? It's edgy. It's definitely like it's
Sure.
pointed,
Yeah.
because we have created a culture where
Mhm.
unless a therapist is telling you something or you're being diagnosed by a
Mhm.
psychiatrist or a medical
Mhm.
professional, like we can't self-diagnose. We don't want to play amateur
Right.
psychologist. So
Right.
you being like, hey, I actually have information that therapists are not telling you, and I'm not a
Right.
professional at this. I'm a human.
Yes.
It's really interesting and controversial.
Yeah, I mean, nail on the head with like, first of all, I want to address like, and I need people to hear this, whoever talks about like you not being therapy. This practice of like spirituality and self love has done more wonders for my mental health and relationship to myself and my mind than any fucking therapy session, ER appointment, all of that I believe in and I think is good and well. This is a supplement that I absolutely need. And I think more people could use and take away that veil of like, well, it's witchy and like memes and astrology. It's like, there's so much more. So, like, first of all, just want to say that like you are so validated and like what you're doing is changing people's lives 100%. As far as like the book, you nailed it. Like, my purpose in writing this was I wanted to write the book that I wish I had when I was 17 and started having panic attacks. And I would go to these doctors and they'd be like so clinical and medicinal. And I'm like, yeah, but what about all of this fucking shit inside my energy? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And I'm just medicating. And the whole purpose is like the title underneath has my name, and then scratched out underneath it is MD PhD. And it's like, I purposely am telling you, I am one of you. I am you. I've been you. I've been institutionalized. I've been to rehab. I've been suicidal. I've been, successful. I've had panic attacks in public places. I've canceled on things. Like, I have been through it. And I just want to put everything in one place of my journey that is not just written. It's not a biography. It's not like a memoir. It's a workbook. So it's split into 3 sections: anxiety, panic, and depression. And every page is a different tactic or exercise or treatment or game or like, silly journaling or drawing. My favorite page is that there's like a connect the dots exercise of an image that turns out to be Ryan Gosling holding a bunny. And I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
I'm always asked like, what the fuck is that in there for? And I'm like, I just think it's very soothing. Like when I'm having a panic attack and I need something to do with my hands, I'm like thrilled.
I have to show you this. I think you'll really
What?
appreciate it. So we're
Show me.
recording this on the day of the full moon, first day of Leo
Ooh!
season.
Oh my God, yes.
I know, Tank. And
Oh,
last
Tank.
night in the Constellation Club, which is the community
Yes.
where we do all of our lunations and
I need to
magical work, we were
join.
making, yes, you do. We were making remote controls for our
Mm.
energy. So we could turn it up and turn it down as needed. And I think you'll appreciate that Vin Diesel giving me a heart
Oh
is
my
part of
God.
mine. Yeah,
Oh my
I saw
God.
him in the magazine. It was like the first
See?
page I opened, and I was like, yeah, that's my
Yes,
therapist
that's
wouldn't tell me this,
therapeutic.
but that, yeah, it's very therapeutic for him. Like, look
And
at
it makes
that.
you smile and laugh. Also, side note, I got to interview him for our podcast.
You better
Guilty
stop.
Pleasures for Fast 9 Fast 9 that just came out. We got to interview him for like 5 minutes and he called me familia. It was one of the best moments of my life.
No, he didn't.
Yes.
You're in his family?
He said, you guys are familia. And he said it in like his Vin Diesel voice. So
You know, his mom, rumor has
is
it
this fucking astrologist. We asked him on the interview. We said, what sign is Dom? And he lit up. He started like, he totally broke out of his character. And he was like, you guys, my mom was here 5 minutes ago and she is an astrologist. And I would have asked her, that is the best question I've been asked today. I'm going to get back to you guys. And like, it made him talk about it. And I've heard him speak publicly about this stuff. So like, I love that for you.
Yeah. There's an amazing clip of him on Jimmy Kimmel where he asked Jimmy his sign, and Jimmy's all like mansplaining, like, and Vin Diesel's like, oh no, you don't know your rising,
you don't
bro?
know your rising? Fucking dead. I'm so happy he exists in the world.
Me too. He is my favorite Cancer of the moment.
He's a Cancer.
Obviously.
Cancers are my best friends always. Isn't that funny?
I love that for you.
Yeah. They're always my best friends, they turn out.
I would love to pull up your birth chart if you were comfortable with that.
Please. I have it tattooed on my arm.
The whole thing?
I mean, it's like the imagery without the circle around it. It's just the lines.
Oh, wow. Look at that grand trine. I can see it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I got it when I was in Lisbon. I got a read from an amazing astrologist who I still use to this day. And she drew it for me and I got it in Barcelona.
That's so worldly.
Witchy. Yeah, I was like, culture.
Okay, Kelsey, where were you born?
Torrance, at Little Company of Mary Hospital in Torrance or Redondo, whichever city you want to call it. It's one within the other.
In California?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, and what is your exact birthday?
8/16/90.
And your birth time?
1:55 a.m.
All right, here we go, baby. Here we go, baby. Let's get it up.
This.
Share screen. This one only.
There she is.
You can only see your birth chart, right?
Yes.
You can't see
the
fuck show that is my desktop.
No, I would never ever put my desktop live on screen either.
Yeah, that would be like really
like showing you my pussy, but
actually
like honestly I'd be like, oh my God, this is so personal.
Right. Okay, so oh my goodness, look at this beautiful chart. So you have this 27-degree Gemini rising, this 29-degree Anaerobic Degree Gemini Moon, another Anaerobic Degree over here for Jupiter.
What does Anaerobic mean? Can you tell me?
Of course I can. I would never just leave you with that.
I'm like, this sounds like physics, and I did very awful in physics.
So each zodiac sign goes from 0 to 29 degrees. And this is why there's no cusps, is because at the time there's a moment when a planet is going to move from 29 degrees and 59 minutes into 0 degrees and 0 minutes. So there is there is a very specific sort of like motion, right?
Sure.
Which is why when we have someone who's born, let's say today, when the sun is in Leo, but it's right after Cancer season, they could be like, oh, I'm a Cancer Leo cusp, but it's like, no, you're a 0-degree Leo, or you're a 29-degree Cancer. That's why the time of birth is so important.
I did not know that.
So if you were born at 2:10, you know,
I
if
would have been,
you would have been a Cancer moon.
Well, also emotions, so I would have been okay with that.
Yes, you do have a lot of other Cancer stuff going on. So we have Cancer covered. You know, you have every single single zodiac sign in your birth chart. So you have a little bit of everything.
Even that little Aries?
Yeah, even this. So this is where Aries is in your birth chart.
Wow.
Right,
it looks so empty over there.
Well, if we were to use another technique called progressions, that's where the moon, let's just pull that up, because this is also how the planets move through time. Things are really starting to change already. So yeah, there's a lot of movement going on. So eventually you are going to have the moon in Aries through progression too.
Got it.
But even still, you know, if we look at the transits, Chiron is currently in Aries. So this is activating the Aries area of your chart.
Ooh, what is this amazing program you're using?
Oh, this is called Time Passages.
It's beautiful.
It is. It's my favorite because I think that it just, the display is very beautiful. Yeah. It makes it very easy to see. So going back to your birth chart, the 29th degree is considered one of the critical degrees in astrology. It's called the Anaerobic Degree. And it's a very sensitive degree because it is the end of a cycle, right? So it signifies the end of something, the completion of something. And whenever I see 29 degree, my question for that planet is sort of like, well, what are you still doing here? You know what I mean? Like, why haven't you moved on to Cancer yet? Why, Jupiter, are you not in Leo? What does it mean? What's the value of sort of staying at the very edge and hovering in that last moment of that sign?
What you doing, girl?
Theoretically, you would have absorbed like a lot of the lessons already of that zodiac sign. But because it hasn't pushed over into the other side yet in your chart, that sort of tension of like, but there's still more to learn. Really, you know, that becomes the narrative of that placement. Does that make sense?
Bitch, yeah, it makes sense. There's still more to learn. I told you, I'm like a soaker of information. And like, you know, women always feel like they never do enough. Like there's always more to be done.
So I have an interesting question to ask you, which has nothing to do with the 29th degree or any of the placements that we've talked about so far. It actually has to do with this little guy, Mars, at 21 degrees Taurus in your 12th house. So I just made a video recently because I have started to notice a trend with Mars in the 12th house that Meghan Markle has, Britney Spears has, and I'm starting to wonder, with people who have Mars in the 12th house, it seems like the systems that are supposed to support them actually
fail them.
Yes. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, like literally that is a reflection of the mental health system for me and for the chronic pain that I live with, the systems that have completely failed me. I've written about this, asking, when you go to the people, like the one place, the hospital that's supposed to help you, and doctors say, we cannot help you, what the fuck am I supposed to do? It's like, it's the scariest feeling in the world. It feels like unreal. It feels very disassociative. Like I truly don't know where I'm supposed to go now. And that is so reflective of, yes, the mental health system and the pain management system we have here in America.
Yes, yes. And, you know, it's interesting because I like to sort of look at charts and, you know, as soon as I start to establish a pattern, I like to start testing it and asking people, have you seen this theme come up in your life? Is this something that you can relate to? And I think the fact that you had to, you know, that you were compelled to even write a book about being like, hey, this is what I didn't fucking learn. And I had to learn for my goddamn self, because that's how unsupported I was through this process, is really indicative of this tank indeed.
Tankity tank tank tank.
Tankity tank 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 tank
tank tank tank tank
tank tank tank.
That's a tank the tank tank tank. It's gonna be like thongs.
Oh my God, Cisco.
I'm gonna start saying that now.
Cisco. Yeah, I've been thinking about Cisco a lot recently. So that's also
Oh,
tank, but
that is
separate.
tank.
I just went through this whole, like, I really went back into the early aughts and was like, what was
where
going
are
on
the
that
things?
hasn't been fully, that I haven't fully processed yet. And the thong song was one of them.
Love that for you.
I also want to mention the fact that you have your midheaven, which is your legacy, your reputation, what you are going to be sort of remembered for in this lifetime, in the beautiful mystical sign of Pisces.
I know nothing about Pisces.
It is deeply spiritual. It is extremely compassionate. It is extremely empathetic, and it's really about healing. It's the healer, spiritual healing. So I think here comes another tank. The fact that on the other side of your Saturn return, as you are, in your 30s,
yes,
into your adulthood,
yes,
it is, talking about mental health through spirituality and through sort of non-traditional forms is actually what your mission
legacy is.
Yeah.
Bitch, tank.
Yes.
This is crazy. I mean, I never, like, bitch, if you would have told me fucking even like 5 years ago that I was going to be able to help people through mental health, I would have like punched you and laughed in your face, because
and then we would have identified that you indeed should be looking at your anger management.
Yes, like I truly would have thought you were fucking like, I was so fucked up. I was so in a place of like, this will never get better. This will never be better. And the fact that like I'm here today, and like, we didn't touch on this, but also that I'm sober, like, is a miracle to me. It really feels like a miracle.
When did you become sober?
2 years ago, actually, like
What's
2 years ago in June. Well, it's tricky because I was still drunk. So I can't remember if it was June 15th or June 25th. I have it in my calendar, I think, as June 25th. Wait, no, that's not right. Maybe it was the 15th. Yes, the 15th, June 15th.
Of 2019?
Yes. What's happening?
I thought so.
What? Tell
me. Okay, well, for anyone who is watching this with us on YouTube, you'll see this if you know how to read the chart. But if you are just listening to the audio of this, allow me to explain.
Please.
So on this day, on June 15th, the sun was in your 12th house. It was about to move into your first house, but it was still in your 12th house. The 12th house is the area of the chart that's associated with secrets, hidden things, addiction, and recovery. It's like asylum. Wow. So it's all of the things that we do in secret, which also kind of makes sense to me that you're like, it's a little ambiguous what day it was. Since
Yeah.
Even more sort of like, I wouldn't, not necessarily even more meaningfully, but like, here's more. And wait, there's more. And wait, there's more of Mars was creating a direct opposition to your Saturn. And you were going through your Saturn return.
Yes.
And you also had Pluto, the planet of epic transformation, also involved in this.
Pluto.
Yes,
R.I.P.
Pluto.
Never forget.
No, Pluto is still alive and well.
Okay, good.
So Mars, the planet of action, making a connection to Saturn. You're going through your Saturn return. Pluto is also there. We also had the nodes of destiny, conjunct your Mercury, which is about, and your North Node is there. So it's about communication. It's about communicating your truth. It's in the house of the body. But then all of the real activity about Saturn and all of the sort of, this is what I need in order to survive, is in the 8th house of death, sex, and transformation. Exposing us to the fact that you were going through this rebirth.
Wow. Dog, I can't even explain how like insane this piece of my life was.
I can't explain how amazing it is to feel when you were called dog. Like that to me was like, oh, like
I'm from the South, so yes, my vernacular is a little more like Southern comfort, hospitality. Like that's how we talk to each other. But like that period of my life was so fucking transformational. I not only got sober, like fixed my relationship with my partner and myself, but I decided to do a 2-week trip to Europe solo for my birthday that year. And that's where I met my astrologer, and like my biggest fear, there's about 3 chapters in my book about flying anxiety and panic attacks. Being able to take a intercon or a transatlantic flight by myself, I almost broke my sobriety. I almost had a panic attack. Like getting on a plane by myself and being able to fly to fucking Europe and then do flights in between by myself was absolutely conquering my biggest fear in life. That was an unbelievable trip for me. And that happened right after I decided to get sober. And like seeing this and having like that astrologer in Lisbon tell me the same thing, like you're in your Saturn return, like right fucking now. And I was like, what? I don't even know what that means. It's a big deal, apparently. Like Tank, I'm like speechless.
Yeah, I mean, I am very moved by this chart of sobriety for you,
Oh,
because I do think that it's
yeah.
very much, this is the awakening of your
Mm-hmm.
potential,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously, having planets in the 12th house, but Mars in the 12th house can definitely struggle with addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine, astrology aside, that if you're being prescribed medication when you're
Mm-hmm.
in high school,
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's going to, medicating yourself is going to become
Yep.
very second nature and can
Yep.
become very dangerous.
Oh, very numbing. I no spoilers, but like I want to write my third book about sobriety and like the anti AA book, just because what I've learned about recovery and like rebirth has been so against the system. It's just like going exactly with like the Britney Meghan Markle thing is like, I think also the recovery system fails women, fails millennials, fails anyone othered. And that's like been weighing heavy on my mind. So like while I finish my second book, I'm like already making the outline for the third about that.
So, so you're not in AA. So,
No,
or maybe you are, I don't know. It's
no, I'm
anonymous,
not.
but
No, no, no. I'm not. I proudly say I'm not. I believe it was a system created by a white man for white men.
so what system do you use to maintain your sobriety?
There's an incredible book that I highly recommend to anyone that's like sober curious or whatever. And I think it's for anyone, not just women, but it's called Quit Like a Woman by Holly Whitaker. And it goes through the process of how she also got sober without AA, because I never identified with the word alcoholic. Like I'll joke and say it because it's a term that society understands, like, oh, you had a problem with drinking. But like I never felt comfortable calling myself an alcoholic. I never felt comfortable going into a room of people and releasing my power that was mostly dominated by white men. I was like, bitch, I spent 30 years building up my motherfucking power. Why am I about to just sit here and be like shamed into giving it up, into saying that like something else is above me and taking over me, and that I I never felt like I was one drink away from ruining my life. Like if I ever decided to go back to drinking, like I'd probably be fine and successful the same way that I was like a functioning, heavy problematic drinker my entire life. But the shame and the religion that is baked into AA never fucking vibed with me. I never felt comfortable there. I never felt like, you know, I never wanted that either to become my identity, which I think a lot of people getting sober are like, oh, I'm going to have to give up everything about my old life. And I'm going to have to get like all these new friends, and they're all going to be sober people, and it's going to be AA, and that's going to be my life. And I never fucking wanted to do that. I wanted to do it on my own terms. And so Holly Whitaker's book talks about like practicing getting sober, because it's a big deal. Like, don't be hard on yourself if you are sober curious and you do end up drinking again. Like, I don't even consider it like the word relapse is so heavy and coded and in failure that I'm like, no, you have to practice doing something. Like you wouldn't just go run a marathon without ever running before. So like for me, it was about being able to know that I could quit for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And it just reinforced like, oh, wait, you can do this. There is just something somewhere in your connective tissues in your brain that when you do say, I'm going to actually take part in it, that is a filler for something, right? Like my favorite thing to say about sobriety is that drinking isn't actually doing anything. Like tailgating, cocktail hour, happy hour, pre-gaming with your friends, like that isn't actually the act of doing anything. You're just drinking and it's just numbing or changing or whatever. And like alcohol is ethanol. Like we actively as a society accept that as a normal thing, and that if you don't drink, you're fucking weird. Like
Mm-hmm.
that alone, that psychology alone of like our culture is like, on your 21st birthday, you got to go out and get wasted. Why wouldn't you? Like, you're weird. You never drink. What the fuck? What's wrong with you? That to me is like, hello, red flag patriarchy. Why the fuck isn't anyone saying anything about like how fucked up this is? And like the fact that I am someone who is known as like the internet's alcohol girl, and now I'm standing here today saying like 100% everything about my life is better after I stopped drinking is again another miracle for me to think
Wow.
that. And like integrating this practice, self love, self care can sound like a little bit face mask and bubble bath, but like tuning into my intuition and listening to my body and building that relationship deeper, practicing it every single day, baking into routines and goals has like completely fucking changed my life.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot about here in America, like the things that we eat, the things that we put into our bodies, the things that we consume are poisons.
Yep.
And why are they poisons? Is because they're being manufactured by these like billion dollar corporations that are
Owned by
just
men.
trying to be efficient. It's just about efficiency and creating
Making money.
addiction so that you can continue to have a business. And it's really just
Mhm.
all the greed of consumerism. And if you actually really do stop and think about what is in this thing that I'm eating or what is in this drink that I'm consuming, you're not going to want to do it.
Right.
You're going to be like, oh no, that's like horrible. Like why would I want to put plastic in my body? Why would
knowledge is power?
Yeah. But we live in such a disassociated society, and we live in a society that it's scary to actually lift the veil and to expose what's going on because we also don't necessarily have an alternative,
Right.
and a lot of people don't have alternatives. So you can't be like, look what's in your McDonald's if that's also the only
what
thing
you can
that you can
afford.
consistently afford to feed your family with.
100%. It's not our fault.
Cruel,
Yeah, it's 100% not our fault. We are born into this world. It's been this way for a very long time. So the act of deciding to lift that veil is very fucking brave. And I think like that can apply to anything, right? Like your food, your mental health system, your sobriety, like your self-love practice, like all of that I feel like is so brave. And taking that first step and acknowledging it, like you're clearly balls deep in the game. But like for anyone listening, just deciding to like open that up a little bit is, I think, the bravest thing you can do.
It is. And it's really scary. It's brave and terrifying because a lot of the time there isn't a solution. So then you are just sort of like, flailing, right? Like you're like hurling through time and space with the awareness, but don't necessarily have space or solutions or answers to resolve it. Exactly.
Yeah. And like, that's why I wrote the book I wrote, just to have like a little piece in the system for people to use and like support. You are like, you should have support in all of these factors of it, and getting knowledge and getting information about it. Like one of my favorite quotes is like, we're born alone and we die alone, and the moments in between are to be shared. And I really believe like fostering connection and communication and asking for help and building that community. Like I cannot wait to join your community because I think that that's like such an easy way to make that process less scary.
Yes, absolutely. And community itself can be also scary. It can be really scary to be vulnerable and to show up as a piece, instead of a whole, right? But that's ultimately like, if we think about what we are as individuals, as a species, as the history of humans, as the history of Earth, like we are just pieces, and we are meant to sort of coexist with all of our other little pieces for the time and the consciousness that we're here.
We're all connected, baby.
We are all connected. Okay, now a few questions for you.
Yes.
Question number 1. What do you believe in?
Oh, what a question, girl.
Yeah, just casual,
What do I believe in? I believe in routine.
Ooh, an unexpected, thought-provoking answer. Pray tell.
Routine has given me more freedom than the idea of freedom. I have baked in, there's another really good book I love to recommend is Atomic Habits, which just teaches you like how to change your life in a easy, simple way and how to get desired results out of your life that you want. And by implementing a routine, especially as someone that's sober and with mental health diagnoses, having that routine has given me the freedom to be everything else that I can be during the day. So
I am so obsessed with that answer, and it is so tank, and it's so meaningful to me because my mom, who is a deeply close person to me, shares my Pisces moon placement. and is really a very eccentric person.
Yeah.
And she taught me basically that routines are boring, and cool, interesting, artistic people don't have routines.
Right.
They stay up all night. They wake up whenever, like
artists.
But I also didn't know at the time that the issues with mental health that were so prominent in my household, and me as the only child, her as a single mom.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, that this rejection of routine was also enabling her and her behavior and her decisions about what drugs she uses. And so into my life, I was like, I'm cool, thus I don't have routine. And it really was a beautiful Aries sun, Virgo moon partner who was like, you need to have a bedtime. And I was like, I don't have a bedtime. I'm an adult.
I gotta like sleep when the world tells me.
I'm sleep when I sleep. But wanting to fortify our relationship, caring enough about our relationship to bend to his lifestyle a little bit, and to start to see, like, actually you have so much more freedom in containers than you do when you don't have any containers at all. You know, you can do so much more like in a vessel than if you were just oozing everywhere and that there's no central focus.
Hundo, love your partner for that.
Yeah, he's very special.
Yeah.
Very patient to work with me through that, because I mean, I was pre-Saturn return, really
fun.
Yeah. the not self-actualized version of myself when we met. Next question. I know it's true. Next question is, how does magic show up in your life?
Okay. I want to tell you a story about this morning because it's so magic-y.
Oh, yay.
So, like all the time, every day, right? And like noticing those little magic things is amazing. I told you before we started recording that I bought my first deck. They're not tarot cards, but they're like affirmation cards that you can ask the universe a question and like whatever it shows you kind of thing. Like I'm learning. I'm very like newbie starter pack. And so I'm doing it for the first time this morning. I'm outside, like the sun hasn't risen. And today was the first day that I was going to decide if I was going to try microdosing. And I am a sober person, but I believe that like marijuana and shrooms are plants from the earth. And like I've heard amazing things about it for chronic pain, but I am fucking terrified of like any hallucinogenic psilocybin, like any drug like that. I was never about that life. I was very much more like a cocaine gal. And so I put the cards down. I pulled cards for myself for the first time. And the first one that it said was just start. And I was like, bitch, what? And then, so like that was witchy in itself. And I was like, oh my God. So obviously I ate the psilocybin and here I am today. Everything's fine. Everything's going great. Handy dandy. And then I decided I wanted to.
Wait, so you're microdosing right now?
Yes. Like today is the first day I've ever done it.
Oh my God.
First day I've ever done shrooms. And like, I feel perfectly fine and amazing.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
tank on all ways, but also like just like, wow, what a reveal. Like 52 minutes into recording and it's like, wait, you're microdosing right now.
And like, I've been feeling it as like this huge weight. It's this big, scary thing. It's like only addicts or like artists or people that live in the woods do that, but like it's becoming more mainstream and we're, you know, even the FDA is using it, blah, blah, blah. So I'm trying to like normalize it. But in that sense, I have to be a part of it. So this is me like trying it. But right after I did that, I felt this need to pull for my sister. So I texted her and I was like, hey, do you have like a question I want to pull for you? And I pulled some like funny cards. It was something she was asking about like her golf game tomorrow. But then as I was pulling, a hummingbird came up like this close to my face and just like sat there and hovered. And since we were 18 years old, my sister and I have always said, whenever we see a hummingbird, it means one of us is thinking about the other person.
Oh my
so
goodness.
It's like, I don't want to like appropriate the word spirit animal, but like, that's kind of how we've felt about each other. And so whenever I see one, I'll text her or whatever. And a fucking hummingbird came and was like hovering in front of my face as I was pulling for my sister. And I was like, what is happening? It was just like the craziest shit ever. Like,
oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Tank.
Tankity tank, 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 tank. Well, speaking of tarot, I would love to pull a card for you.
Please. This is my dream.
Do you have a question or a topic that you would like to pull on? Because the cards do best when it's in response.
I would like financial answers about some business that I've just started. And like my partner and I just went through and like combed through all of our financials, because don't need to get into it. You can find the story on YouTube, but we got robbed of a lot of money, and from like a guy who broke into our house at night not long ago. And it was very traumatic. And that's why we moved and blah, blah, blah. So we had to redo our finances for insurance, yada, yada, yada. So I'm in a funky place and I just want some like financial clarity. Is that a question?
Wow. Yeah.
Or do you need a specific one?
No.
That's okay.
I could definitely work with that.
Okay.
Okay. So would you like me to pull from pile 1, pile 2, or pile 3?
2.
Beautiful choice. It's actually the biggest of all the piles.
Gimme. No.
Okay. So let me make sure that I know exactly what to ask here, which is what do we need to know to create more financial like flow, abundance. Okay. Yeah. So what do we need to know about financial abundance? What is the energy, a message, something that is going to help us get to more financial?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I got it now.
Okay.
Page of Swords. So this card is very much an air sign card. And it's also, so it could be an air sign person. I would say that even though you are a Leo, you are also an air sign person because you have double gems. Yeah. In those, you have more than just the 2 gems, but you have your rising and moon. So swords in general is really about the intellect. It's about the mind. It is about the things that we are, the things that we conceive on the cerebral and intellectual plane. So it's about an idea. And page is about the beginning of something. It is someone who is just starting. It is still not fully formed, but it is leaning into your genius. It is leaning into your creative, intellectual intelligence, and it is coming up with a new plan. So this to me looks like a new plan that is still not full in maturation, but is in the early stages and has the potential to become something really monumental.
Literally, I am in my pre-seed raise for my business for an app I just created, and it's not formed yet. The build comes once we get the pre-seed money, and I'm like, I should find out in the next week if we made like the pre-seed raise.
Oh, you're gonna make it. Yeah.
Well, the fact that you pulled that card and you were saying like it's the new plan, like I keep wondering, like if I start this business, is it going to detract me from like everything that I've done normally with like entertainment and performing? Because this business is an app, so it's not like involved in what I do normally. But I keep getting fucking pulled to this, and the universe keeps opening doors and creating meetings and introducing me to people, and like that's just more confirmation that like yes, that is the way to go.
Yeah, I feel that the Page of Swords is a very much a green light on that.
Oh. See, I fucking love this shit. Maybe I'm mushrooms, but I feel amazing.
You are the best. You are so fabulous. So
you are.
This is always what happens. Whenever 2 Leos get into a room, it's always like, you're the best. No, you're the best.
I love your hair. I love your makeup. I love your face. I love everything about you.
The real question is, are we going to have a joint birthday party on August 17th, which is the day between our 2 birthdays?
100%.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Do you hear you, universe? Yeah.
So where can we find you? Where can we stay connected? Where could we be the first to discover what this Page of Swords is all about?
Oh my God. Okay. So you can find me at Kelsey Darragh on all the things. Obviously the podcasts, I've got 2 of them, Confidently Insecure and Guilty Pleasures. And the new business is called Swapskis. It is a marketplace app where it is 1-to-1 home decor trading. You don't actually have to buy anything. It's trading.
Wait, so can I trade for the S&M gear?
Yes. Like that plan behind you. Yes. 100%. And you can go sign up for our newsletter at swapskis.co. We're on Instagram at swapskis, and be excited because we're trying to launch this year.
That's so exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah, Page of Swords.
So amazing. Yes. Page of Swords energy fully. Thank you so much. So lovely as always.
You too.